Hello, I'm Jackie Lucky, your financial planning maestro. This series of podcasts is aimed at financial planning professionals and also those who are looking to enter the financial planning profession. We will be talking during the podcast about all things Certified Financial Planner certification related, talking to other CFPs around the world, and also we will be dropping in on some new entrants who've just entered the financial planning profession, and we'll be checking up along the way on a regular basis with them to see how they're getting on. I hope you enjoy today's podcast. Hello and welcome. I'm Jackie Lucky, your financial planning maestro. And in today's episode, we are talking everything to do with gaining your Certified Financial Planner license, becoming a Certified Financial Planner professional in the UK. And I'm joined today by a very special guest who's recently become a CFP professional, and that is Graeme Smith, who's a financial planner at Miln Craig. Hello, Graeme.
Hi, Jackie. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks. How are you?
Yes, I'm good, thank you. Thanks for bringing me on here.
Thanks very much for joining me. So we are going to get into the weeds of how you got on gaining your CFP in just a moment. But before we do all of that, just give our listeners a quick potted history of how you got into the financial planning profession.
Okay. Well, to be honest, I actually kind of fell into it, and I've listened to a couple of your podcasts, and I think there's a few people who've kind of fallen into financial services. So when I left school, I actually went to university to study design and engineering, but that wasn't quite for me. So after a couple of years, I left and had a number of different jobs, including selling cars at one point. Eventually, I went onto a role in a call centre with a bank. Which was my first kind of finance role, and I really enjoyed it actually. Really enjoyed dealing with customers, helping direct them, provide advice. It was really enjoyable. So eventually, I was offered a role in the actual branch, which I took on, which was great because we were dealing with clients face to face and directly. And that really opened my eyes into the kind of finance industry. And working in the branches, that allowed me to work quite closely with the other advisors, so the mortgage advisors and financial advisors. There was one advisor, Karen Vorster, who I kind of see as my mentor. She kind of let me to sit in some of her appointments and to see how she dealt with clients and how financial advice worked. And that really made me realise that this is what I wanted to do. But at the time, the bank wasn't offering to help anyone with exams or anything. So I decided if I wanted to progress, I needed to do it. So I paid for the exams myself, worked out with time. And firstly, I did the diploma RO1, and then I did the CFA to become a mortgage advisor, which I felt was a great way to start the kind of advisory journey. So once I became a mortgage advisor, I continued to do the diploma, and then on from there to become a financial advisor. So,
wow. Yeah, so doing it basically under your own steam once you had, having the value of a mentor at those points in your life, you can't underestimate it, can you? If you hadn't known Karen, hadn't met her, you could have been in a completely different place by now.
Yeah, no, I agree, and it really did open my eyes to what I wanted to do, because I think up until then I wasn't sure, and it's not something that's really discussed at school, the kind of financial advice role, and that was definitely an eye opener for me.
Excellent. And so then you progressed on. You finished your diploma and the more advanced qualifications. And then at what point did you come across the Certified Financial Planner?
Well, I completed the diploma, became a financial advisor, did a couple of kind of roles doing that. Started with telephone advice, and then went face to face, and then went into kind of private banking, and then there. When I was doing the kind of wealth management side, I completed the chartered qualification with CII, which I was really pleased with. But I decided to continue my exams and went through to do the PCAM exam, which was the Private Client Investment Advice and Management exam through the CISI, which was quite directed for kind of the private banking role. And it was interesting because I found the CISI exam much different from the CII. It seemed to be more real life rather than just based on technical, which the CII exams were. So I quite enjoyed it. And because of that, I decided to look at what else was available through the CISI, and the CFP obviously came up. I had a colleague that also completed the CFP, and to know that that was the kind of next stage up from the kind of level 6 chartered, I felt that this was something I wanted to aim to do. So I felt, it would help me.
Let's go for it.
Good for the CV, good for the
Yeah.
CV, but also good for my own development, especially because it was more based on kind of real life rather than just the technical aspects.
Yes, yeah. And it's really interesting that you mentioned the PCAM exam there that CISI offer. I used to be an examiner for the PCAM exam many, many moons ago in a previous life. But I found that exam was, like, just as you said, it's really practical. I think one of the questions that I looked at was, exploring whether a client should pay off their mortgage now, or whether to use that money, they received a little inheritance, and whether to use that money for investment to help them retire earlier, or to pay off the mortgage. So some of it was, math calculations because they were a high rate taxpayer, but actually that kind of discussion of the pros and cons I hadn't seen before in the exam. So, very reflective of the kind of thought processes that you have to go through when you're doing the level 6, isn't it? And the level 7 case study in particular.
Yeah, exactly. And the PCAM kind of brought together a lot of the other exams into one. So you weren't just focused in one area. So it was showing how the different areas are joined and how they can affect each other.
Yeah.
So it was a good one to do.
Good one. Yeah, absolutely. So then, because you had all of your CII qualifications as well as PCAM, did you still have to do the level 6 advanced financial planning exam before starting the level 7 case study?
Yeah, well, I was kind of hoping I wasn't going to, because I'd done the advanced financial planning for the CII, but for whatever reason, I had to still do that. Did the level 6 for the CISI, which again was quite a good exam, basically because it was, again, different from the CII stuff. Again, more kind of real world. And actually it gave me a good basis for the CFP going on to that. So I was quite glad I did that in the end.
Yeah, good. Sometimes you kind of think at the time, oh gosh, do I have to do it again? But, in hindsight, like you say, that, just actually proving to yourself that you already know that information and you can apply it, can give you a big confidence boost, especially going into that level 7 case study.
Yeah, exactly. And I actually did a lot better at it than I was expecting to. So I was quite pleased, and it gave me a bit more confidence to go into the CFP as well.
Excellent. Well done. So let's talk about the CFP and the level 7 case study and all the assessment process. Give us a little potted history of how you approached the case study when you got it.
Well, when I got it, I was about to quit. when I looked at it, it was quite overwhelming. There's a lot to it, especially for myself. At the time, I was working in wealth management, so I was more focused on investments, rather than the whole holistic view of including pensions and everything else. So it was quite overwhelming when I was going through everything, trying to work out how everything would relate to each other. But I think what I had to do to begin with is just read it. I made sure I read it a couple of times before I took any notes, just to get a good understanding of the clients that I had, and to try and get probably a kind of initial view of the route I'm going to go down. And then it was important to try and break it down into the different elements. So yeah, basically just breaking it down into the kind of different sections and trying to analyze and work out what their actual objectives are. Because what we did notice when going through it doesn't just state what your objectives are, because you've got to read the actual story as well, because you can pick out other things in there as well.
Yes. And some of the case study say things like, I want to maintain my current standard of living. So,
Yes.
You can't just go, oh, it's £50,000 or whatever it might be. You've got to work it out, haven't you?
You've also got to watch when you're making any recommendations, how it affects the other parts of the financial plan as well. Like you said, you can't just make a recommendation for an investment, because then you won't have the funds to meet another objective, such in my case, it was kind of charity contributions. And my one was also interesting because it was based on sisters as well. And usually any advice you're doing it's usually partners or married couples. So
Yes.
that was obviously a different view on that as well.
Absolutely. And then I guess, I think, I can remember that case study quite clearly, that one is kind of back end loaded with estate planning and, the protection requirements where if you've got one client who has a lot of money and is a high rate taxpayer and the other who's the basic rate taxpayer and not so much, not so much pension funding, not so much of annual income as well. So, it's kind of quite common in family units, isn't it, to have that discussion? And I guess, what the CISI is trying to get at is that, there are plenty of these blended families. And actually, in this case, as you say, two sisters who operate as a family unit, if you like.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Another part of this one was the quite considerable charity contributions as well, and that they wanted to continue right through for at least I believe it was another 10 years. So you also had to take into account was that in real terms and assessing the kind of inflationary risks and things. So there was a lot to it.
Yes.
A lot to the exam.
A lot of nuances along the way, weren't there, in those interview notes?
Oh, exactly. And that again, that's what I was saying. You've got to read it through and keep reading it, because you get the fact find through. That's got obviously a lot of the information, but when you start reading the interview notes, it does raise a lot more questions. So you've just got to make sure you're questioning everything as you go through.
Yes. And as you started to build your financial plan, were there any areas in particular that you thought, oh gosh, I need to devote maybe a little bit more time than I thought or anticipated that I would? I guess coming from, predominantly, mortgage advice and then wealth management background, were there any issues that you kind of thought, oh, I need to press the pause button, go away and do a bit of research on?
Yeah, well, a big thing was the kind of cash flow analysis. So I'd done previous exams where we've used kind of online cash flow modeling tools. I hadn't had to use them in the roles I had been in before, but it came quite quickly apparent that these weren't going to give me the information I needed for this exam. They're kind of high level. The cash flow model that you have to build or use for this exam, you need to be able to relate all your different assumptions to it, but you need to be able to change each as you make certain recommendations. You need to be able to change different parts of the information you've put in, so it reflects in other parts. If that makes sense.
Yes. So you didn't go down using the software route. You used spreadsheets instead?
I did, and actually, that was in the back of your course, which I wouldn't have been able to do otherwise. I actually thought I was quite good at Excel until I did your course. When I realised how little I actually knew beforehand. But and I would highlight, and I have highlighted to other people who have considered it, that doing the course is really important, because doing that Excel spreadsheet. For one thing, it gave me a better understanding of how cash flow models actually work.
Well.
And it helps me now, even though I don't use the Excel spreadsheets to do the cash flow modeling for my clients now, and I have a better understanding of what the information is going in the background, and it makes me it makes it easier for me to present that information to a client.
Oh, that's great to hear. So the pain was all worth it then, Graeme.
Well, it was in the end, and funny
Kind
enough,
of.
I found some of the notes from your course the other day, and some of the different formats and things, and all the information on there was quite. I didn't want to look at it, to be fair.
Yes. Oh, I know that feeling. Yes. Imagine what my world's like listening to myself on the videos all the time. Great. So you went through the course, that gave you more confidence about how to structure, your approach. How did you manage your time during that process?
Okay, so it actually took a lot longer than I was expecting. But when you do any sort of exam, they give you an expected time to obviously prepare for the exam and do the reading and research. And usually on previous exams, I've not taken anywhere near as much as the kind of recommended.
Yeah.
But this one was definitely different. It did take a lot longer than I was expecting, but it was worthwhile taking the extra time because it does require a lot of preparation. And I do find that preparation at the start did help going through.
Yes.
Regarding actual time wise, so I made sure I kind of structured. So I did 2 hours a night, Monday to Thursday, then a couple of hours on a Sunday, and I just kept that structure because I was trying to do this while working full time with two young children at the time.
Wow. Yes.
So it was fun and games. So it was good to obviously have the support from my wife as well. That was real important to be able to go away and lock myself away for those couple of hours. But yeah, making sure that you have a structure and a routine in place. But I must have taken, round about 150 to 200 hours. I think the recommend is about 200, so I probably wasn't far off that. And I had to actually submit it twice. So yeah, it took a lot longer than I was expected, but it was definitely worth it.
And I think you're right, though. You can't do it without family support, can you? Because, especially with a young family as well, you've still got to you've only got that 10 weeks to submit the plan. So it's really important to be able to give it your all, especially on the first assessment, isn't it? That's what I said to you. Give it your all on your first assessment so that if you do have to resubmit, it's a few minor and much less stressful errors to fix. But you like you say, you couldn't do it without the support of family and friends around you.
Yeah, and just on the back of what you mentioned there about the resubmitting, so by doing all the preparation at the start, making sure I had good comprehensive notes, it meant when I got the feedback from the first the first submission I did, I was able to come back to it and know the areas that I had to change. And obviously your course, I kept my second face one-to-one with you. I actually decided to keep that in case I did fail, which was definitely worthwhile because obviously you helped me with what to look at for the resubmission.
Yes, yeah. And actually, how did you, I always say to people that quite often when they receive their feedback from the CISI, if they haven't passed their first submission, which we know, don't we, that 60% plus of people don't pass on their first submission. So, but people tend to get a bit kind of shirty and uppity about the feedback that's been received. What did you think about the quality of feedback that you received from the CISI?
To be honest, it was better than feedback I've had from an exam from the CII. So there was definitely, it was more comprehensive. Actually, it was very comprehensive because it went through each section and it kind of highlighted the different areas that you've done well on, but it's also highlighted areas that you should be looking at. As I said, I've compared that to the exam with CII, where it's like you basically get rated in each section in A, B, C, and you don't get much feedback on it. But the CFP one was much different, a bit more comprehensive.
So it kind of gives you a fighting chance. It doesn't tell you what you have to do, does it, to fix it? But it tells you where you've gone wrong.
Exactly, and it gives you areas that you should be looking at more. And yeah, that was definitely helpful.
Excellent. So after all of that, and becoming successful. So congratulations on that again. Now there's been a little bit of time between becoming a CFP professional and us talking today. Tell us a little bit about looking back and reflecting on that journey. Are there any particular aspects where you feel that it's given you confidence or helped you improve as a financial planner moving forward?
Well, fun enough, it's actually led to a change in career. So, as I said, when I started the process, I was working as a wealth manager for a large private bank. But it made me decide that I wanted to provide full advice and become an actual financial planner. So that's why I took up the opportunity with Miln Craig. And Miln Craig's allowed me to do that and be able to offer full financial planning. And what's important, it's holistic advice I provide now.
Yeah.
So because you can discuss all areas of advice and how, just like the CFP exam, how all the different parts of advice relate to each other, and putting that together as one part, looking at it as one big picture.
Yes.
So that as I said, that's been a big change for me, a big change in career. And I do feel now that I'm a lot more confident in speaking with clients and really be able to relate and identify their objectives, and help them prioritize these in a way that is suitable for their own financial planning. So it's certainly given me a lot more confidence. And as I mentioned earlier, the understanding a bit more about the kind of how the cash flow model worked.
Yeah.
We use a system called Cash Calc, but it's good knowing an understanding of how the figures are working in the background, and it allows me to present that to a client in a much more efficient manner.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's fantastic and great. I'm really pleased that you've had a change of career, I must say.
No, well, I'm pleased as well. It's refreshing being able to being able to provide that full advice to clients. And now I deal with clients, we deal with their families. So you're creating good, long-standing relationships now.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And do you think that some people who have gone through the CFP process have said to me that actually it kind of enables them to see a bit further down the track for a client, to be able to perhaps articulate earlier on than they otherwise might have been able to, potential problems that are on the horizon. I guess that's the kind of that combination of what you were just saying earlier about those conflicting objectives and being able to stand back and look at the big picture. Did you find something similar?
Yeah, oh, definitely. So rather than just focusing in on that one area, again, it's about how the different areas relate to each other, and how if you do make a change in one part of the client's life, how that's going to affect something else. So seeing the whole big picture, and it's that word holistic, being able to provide the full big picture advice.
Yeah, that's great to hear. Great to hear. And I'm sure that, all of your clients and the families that you're dealing with are, benefiting on a daily basis because of these new skills that, that you've developed over the last 12 months, 18 months or so, as well as obviously helping you with a new career pathway, which is great to hear.
Also, when the client can see that you're chartered as well as certified, it gives them confidence, especially if they do any research and they understand anything about the finance qualifications. So it does give them confidence that they're dealing with an advisor that's taking that extra step to try and improve themselves.
That's fantastic. Great to hear. So, Graeme, we are I don't know where the time's gone talking to you today. I could talk to you all afternoon, but we are nearly at the end of our interview today. And so I just wanted to ask you if you have any tips or any information or encouragement that you wanted to share for people who might be thinking of embarking on the CFP process. Maybe they sitting on the fence and wondering, umming and ahhing about it. Maybe like you, they're in a slightly different profession in wealth management instead of giving, holistic financial advice at the moment. Do you have any tips to share with them?
Well, exactly that there. If a similar idea, if they're working in say a restricted role or like in a bank where you're just providing advice in one area. If you do the CFP, that will open your eyes to what financial advice is all about. And it might help other people change career. I would recommend to anyone that is looking to embark on it that this is one exam that paying for the additional courses, such as your own, Jackie, I think is really beneficial. In particular, your course, when you're restricted like by time, the good thing about your course was that you could go back to the videos and go over them in your own time. And you also had the kind of group sessions as well as the one-to-one. So that would be my biggest thing for anyone, would be to just take the course. It really, really does help. Also, if you do fail initially, like I said, 60% of people do apparently. Make sure you keep a record of any of the preparation and thoughts behind your recommendations, because it does take time to get the results back, and you might forget some of the stuff. So it's important you can go back and relate to those. And finally, just do it. It is a really good feeling to get that qualification under your belt.
Fantastic. Great tips. Thanks very much for joining me today, Graeme. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
It's really interesting, isn't it, to listen to different people who have different experiences of gaining their Certified Financial Planner certification, or maybe developing the financial planning profession at large. If you know anybody who you think might be interested in listening to any of these podcasts, then please do pass on our details. That's it for me. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. See you again soon. Bye for now.